I really invite you just to pay attention to which of these stories do you resonate more. What are the passage of that story that is calling you in a personal way? So, thank you for being here. Let's start with this story. So, I would like to invite Marcelo to start from the beginning and to share what is alive within you in this moment.
Good morning. I yeah. I don't think I can start from the future because many times I've been asked like if like Ecovilla was what I envisioned or what I dreamed or and I really didn't envision anything or had anything in mind. It was just being in the present and moving one step at a time without having any expectations. And when you don't have expectations, it's amazing because you can never get disappointed. It's in the moment that we go into that future and having this perfect image or that and want to get there that you get disappointed. In the moment that you are present and you go step by step, it's really amazing. So right now I'm gonna start from the present and seeing all of you here, it gives me joy of seeing, okay, I'm not the only crazy one.
Exactly.
That's so really it's beautiful like how we are creating a container and this container is having all these new aspect of these rules or perspectives or people that are helping like welcoming you to the game in a way of thinking how can we imagine, how can we create, how can we prevent conflict, and if conflict arrives, how to solve it, how we can really grow and don't stay in the surface, and how can we start evolving. And it's part of, you know, we in the moment we decide to take a leap of faith or anything, it's about making change and wanting to go further and being growing in the experience. And we have beautiful mirrors here to learn, to share, and to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So now moving back to the past, um, you know, I grew up in a city, and this I never liked to live there. It was something that I felt it wasn't my place, and going to school every day felt like it was like really hard for me. I really didn't enjoy sitting, listening, and repeating and memorizing, and that this is not really for me. And I would find ways to try to get out of the classroom and do other things as much as possible. And feeling, wow, I don't like anything about this reality. So I started playing video games as a kid, and I love to play this game called SimCity. And thinking about how we can really have a different, create a different scenarios and how you can have from a blank canvas and start designing this town, the small town like that became a city, a metropolis, and then connecting it with other cities, and it was quite interesting. And creating the city was actually the easiest part, but then managing the city was the hardest part. And And this is something that we started talking internally. How can we really work? Like, because making the roads, the sewer, the electricity is quite simple. But the dynamics, the human dynamics, the egos and everything is sometimes the hardest part to work with. And and right now it's like, how can we start backwards? In Ecovilla, we waited until everyone was like, there was a big group of us living there already, to bring someone that his name is John Young from Santa Cruz. He's an anthropologist that he was mentored by Richard Louv. He wrote The Last Child in the Forest, this book, and he would travel all around the world, visiting many communities, ancient communities, and seeing what makes them to be successful after so many years. And he shared about all these different experiences and give you the possibility to connect with nature, to connect with each other, to connect in community around the fire, storytelling, singing together. And this is when we started to create our own culture, in a way, how we bring men's circles, women's circles, singing circles, and how we start doing a connection. And when people come to Ecovilla many times, and they start feeling all this connection with nature, the connection with each other, the kids that I can run free to their friend's house, even when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, and having the elders that you looked up to and saying, wow, I wish I could be like her when I'm 80. Right? And having that sense of humor and connection, and being able to give you the advice of living much longer than us. And just when we look at a healthy ecosystem, we see that there are small trees, large trees, medium, and all different species. And as well, we tend to live in neighborhoods or societies that are pretty much the same as us. And it gets quite boring after a while. And having this diverse of ages, nationalities, backgrounds, is what makes it life much richer, that we can keep learning, that we can keep evolving. And I feel that we are creating something very, very unique. And yeah, for me, this community had a profound effect, because I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. I just, as I said, I was just following steps of saying, okay, life was showing me, by having my wife, we met, we fell in love, we wanted to have kids, and we were living in an island in the border between Panama and Costa Rica, and I was working in a project, planting trees and regeneration and this and that, and I was super happy in my island. It says, if we want to have kids, I'm not gonna have kids here in the middle of nowhere. And we need others, and we need community. And as well told me, like, I said, I don't want my kids to go to any school. And we said, you better find a solution, because I'm not gonna homeschool. So it was part of this, that was the steps of coming and scouting for land and looking for land everywhere, and things were not flowing, like, in a way of finding the right land. And I said, maybe it's not Costa Rica. And we decided to say, let's go and travel. And we traveled a year, we got married and traveled a year and a half around the world, and learned a lot of what not to do. So that is also good. And then we came back, and Noah was on the way, and I got desperate. I don't want Noah to grow up, my oldest son, to grow up in a suburb of San Jose, surrounded by like concrete, and this is when the land showed up and said, "Here I am. I'm ready. Let's build it." And started coming and calling some people, some friends, and suddenly Ecovillas just flowed really, really fast. And everything started aligning and things kept going. And in the moment we finished building our house, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was a news that we were not expecting. She was 32 years old at the moment. And in that moment, we found, like, I really could see what is the importance of community. People that I hardly know, they were more present than friends that I had for a long time. They were there every day for her, for my kids, and for myself. Every week we would have men's circles. That was a great opportunity to share and have this amazing experience. And so it was she was a long process that she dealt with this diagnosed, and when after, like, right when COVID started, she died. and and it was an incredible support that I had, a terrible experience, but at the same time we felt so much love and so much contentment, and from a full community. Every day we would open the door and we would have a buffet waiting for us in our doors. So really was incredible to have all that care and tender for the kids. They will take them to activities, to do this or that. Like, everyone was really helping. And they made a beautiful ceremony to honor her life. And it's as well how we treat death and life at the same time, and how we honor the life cycles, the nature cycles, and, and go with that. And after, like, going through my grief, and it became very clear to me that how much we are disconnecting from nature, how much we are disconnected from each other, and how important it is to have this back. I said I really would love to build Ecovillas and these schools all over Costa Rica and all over the world. And as soon as I had that realization, a friend of mine called me and says, "Hey, there is this couple that are very interested in eco-villages, that they just arrived in Santa Teresa, and I happened to be there at the same time, and they said they would want to have dinner with us. Would you like to come?" And I passed the microphone.
My name is Canel. I'm French. I'm 45. I think I'm 46, but I forgot. Yes, he's my junior, not 2 months. And Sebastian is my husband. So yes, I answered Juan. Well, I don't think we're going to go to this panel because it's not for us to talk, really. I think Marcelo has the story, he has the vision, he has the will, and I see us more as supporters of this. In the background, we're here to support financially, helping as we can in organization, restructuration of the project, helping the growth. But yes, I think he has that magic with you that, I didn't really feel I had my word in this. Yet, yesterday night, I think there's a woman who told me, thank you for making this possible. And I said, oh, please don't thank me. But then I thought during the night, why? And then I got to think about the reason why we are here, and I understood why Juan asked me to talk today, so I can share that. So we were in Santa Teresa back in those days, I think, 3 years ago maybe? And we were in Santa Teresa because we were at that time living in Miami. We were to move to London with our 3 little girls, very little. And they were COVID coming, so we said that maybe London is not the right choice. We were to sign for that apartment, hopefully we didn't, and we said, okay, let's go for nature, where kids can take out those masks they are wearing at 2 years old to go to school. Okay, let's escape all that. Where do we go? All borders were closed. Yet at some point, Costa Rica borders were open. And we said, what else, for nature than Costa Rica? So we couldn't really travel, so we moved. When we moved to Santa Teresa, where we had that friend who also introduced us to Marcelo. We had that dinner, and he was talking about that land he would visit during the day. And I said, oh, are you talking about that land? I think we visited that two days ago. So we started talking. He explained his vision, and we just arrived, we were fresh, and we were saying, this is a paradise, but I don't think we would want to live in that paradise alone. So how about, visiting land, buying a land, and bring some friends? Really, it was very candid approach. And Marcelo shared his vision and what he had already done here, and it seems wonderful. Yet we didn't notice that, a guy coming here and then, so, yeah, so he looks nice, he looks like a big bear you want to hug, but, how many million are you going to put on that? I'm not sure. But it happened that I met that woman, a black woman coming from Dominica Republica. And she had dropped her small business to get closer to Cobano in Punta Arenas, where she would feed and help helpless children. And I got the call to help her and started to again look for lands so she could host those children, and in a natural environment, healthy, planting, having chicken and eggs for the children, etc. And then at some point I talked to Marcelo, and she said, I know this woman, actually. We went with my sons a year ago to help them understand how to plant in their very tiny little garden at that time. And, off we went, seeing that woman again together, and starting helping. And you know how it is, when you start to help, it doesn't stop. So eventually we created an organization and a board and got involved a lot. And along the way, we got to know each other. And yeah, he would help for very little things. I would go under the sun, for hours visiting lands. And I guess the trust was just getting built at that time, with something that had no interest, no personal interest. Only that's will to help. So I think it was a very healthy way to start working together, because it was real work. And at some point we discussed with Sebastian, and okay, how about this big bear? Are we going? Are we not going? And so Sebastian asked me, but how is it, when you guys work together for this? Say, well, for now, it's been so seamless. It doesn't. We don't really talk too much, but we do things, which I like a lot. So, so yes. So that was our story, and that's the story how we met, and that's, I guess, the story how we decided. And we were in the car going back from Cobano, from what now is an orphanage with 30 children. And he says, so how about that land that you visited 3 times? And I did visit 4 times. And so he said, but so how much are they asking, etc. And there was such a story behind that man willing to sell that land, not willing, etc. While playing the game, no? So, and then I don't know, I think we pulled out a number in the car, just driving, and that was the beginning. That was it. That was like, even we didn't know it was the beginning of our collaboration in this project. Yeah. So back to the initial question of how, why we're in this, and how I didn't realize why I was in this, because for me we were just supporting Marcelo in his, in his things and in his quest for bringing more joy to this world and getting people together. And I think we are also putting names on that, because with Sebastian, but yeah, I'll let him tell you our story, because he's better than me to do that. But recently, I mean, we are in the second phase of our lives, and we're lucky to have successes, and we have enough so that we have that luxury to involve ourselves in what we think is good for us. And actually, what is good for us feels that it's what has a positive impact for this planet, the people, the wildlife. So we're creating a fund, and it's going to be out in like 2 weeks or so, that is called Capital on a Mission. And then yesterday night, so back to that lady who talked to me, I said, so why are we, is there like a more profound, story about why we're in this? And I think it's in the name of our family office, Capital on a Mission. We believe there is a responsibility of the capital, of where you're investing it, of what you're doing with it, where you're donating it. I mean, all of that has obviously an impact of, of what that money is going to be used for. And in this part of our life, we just want to do a project that has positive impacts on people, on nature, on this planet. So I guess that's just, the answer was here, but I didn't really put all this together. So thank you. It was a common coming out for me. Thank you.
My name is Sebastian. I'm Argentinian. But yes, I have to explain, because most Argentinians that you would meet everywhere in the world, they're from Buenos Aires or somewhere close. I was born and grew up in a tiny village in Patagonia, in nature, which I love, which I miss a lot. And coming here this morning, I said, obviously people want to know who we are. And so I don't like talking about me. But I said I have to find a way to let people have their own idea of maybe telling a short story of who I am and essentially what drives me as a person. And I always say, Marcelo, we're exactly the same, but the opposite.
Same, but different.
Absolutely. It's a Canadian expression I like very much. A good friend of mine saying that, same, but different. But as a kid, I grew up in a place with very limited resources. My parents hardly went to school. My dad had to start working at 11. My mom had hardly how to write. But at home, there was always the will we had books and music. And then I lived in the future. Because for me, I love this place, but I thought my place was somewhere else. So, and then when you live in the future, dreaming and having ideas,
the things that you don't get lost in there. And you just have to build a bridge back. And so I started from there, and then the opposite to Marcelo, that school was always easy, so I always had time to do something else. And saying that I was lucky to have curiosity, a son as a kid growing up. I'm curious about the world and things, and I'm also very curious about people. So the long story short is that I've been always dreaming of building things, and entrepreneurs, and today I'm an entrepreneur. I had several lives. For example, one of them was I was a banker in Wall Street. I wanted to learn how the world of finance works. I always liked numbers. And then what I realized is that, to give an example about finance, it's a wonderful tool. The problem is the people, how they use it, what they use it for. And then what they're after, right? Because when you work in that world, you live, you breathe, you think money. Nothing wrong with it. The partner is, what do you do? And I have chosen, since a very young age, purpose over interest. And I realized that first you need to be free in order to make choices, not to be constrained by your condition, by your financial means, by your education, by the society in which you live. So I always said to myself, I need to buy my freedom and discover the world, and then have the means to do that. So I went from that life, becoming an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur lives always in the future, trying to imagine a solution to a problem or an idea or innovation. But as I said, I like building, and what I like is building bridges. Bridges to people, different cultures, bridges between the future and the present, and sometimes to the past. Because unfortunately, many of the problems we have today is most people don't know history, and it repeats itself. And then when you understand that, you can much better understand the present and then have a better future vision for the future. And so it happened that technology was my world. I built many companies, and I'm going to make the joint here to Costa Rica. My last company became a very famous big company in the financial world, in the technology world, and that happened when we were in Costa Rica. So we flee Miami, and I'm going to explain after why. In this place, in the middle of nowhere in Santa Teresa, and I sold my company from there. People were saying, you're crazy, you should be back here. There are 3,000 people in this company, it's a complicated transaction. It happened to be one of the biggest technology French companies. I don't say that to brag about anything. I want to give a notion of proportion, that it doesn't make any difference that you have 3,000 people, 40 offices around the world, and all the funds around the planet looking at that. I was in the house in Costa Rica with the nature, and I was working from there. Luckily, we had a connection, and I could do it. People couldn't believe it. And then it happened.
They wouldn't see you wearing just.
Yes, sometimes I had to say, they didn't know where I went. And I knew I was supposed to be living in Miami in an office, but I always wanted to preserve that faith. So another time I tell you a funny story, but so long story short, what happened was that, and then after that journey in Costa Rica, we said, as Canel said, this is a wonderful place. Usually people in our situation would say, wow, let's buy a home and have a vacation house. And what's the point of a vacation house? Most of the time they are empty. So I said, wow, no, it's really nice if we get some friends we're discussing, because we didn't buy a house for a long time. I mean, we always rented a place, move around, we live like gypsies. And trying to find a place to put roots, and then thinking about purpose. And then we have kids, they are very young, our 3 daughters. I have an elder son from my first relationship, and also when I come into the picture, because it was a very determining situation for us to make also a link with Marcelo. My son was sick a few years, at the same time, Marcelo's wife was sick with cancer. And I was living that as a parent, and I was living that, as my wife was not her kid, but for people that know that disease is a disease that drags a family and a whole village into. And here is where I have a second challenge in life, saying, "Can somebody like you, what can you do about a situation like this? As a parent, there is not much thing you can do besides hope for the best." And then I found that there was something to do, and we started talking about this with Marcelo when he shared his story and his vision, and we clicked as a person, and in a way we had the same kind of dreams of a place where I found that the society was either sick. We lived 7 years in the US. We found that it's a sick society. We lived in Europe for many years. We think it's a dying society. There are no dynamics. And then, as I said, I went to different schools and was very successful into that. And I also found that the system was broken. So we said, no, what are we going to put our kids in this situation? So everything was not getting in places. And so here comes a situation where you said, so what choices you're going to make in that situation? And we definitely had the same values, visions, and feelings with Canel, and share with Marcelo, coming from very different places. Even if we came from Argentina, had very different life experiences and very common ones. And in fact, there was a convergence into saying, it's not very complex, but we will need to redo it in a way that if we want to have a place where we can meet with people from around the world, from an inclusive place with all sorts of beliefs, opinions, and variety, but that we have shared values and tolerance, and we want to build a better place, then we should get into, doing it ourselves in a way. So, and I also told Marcelo, and then I get to try to understand what communities were in villages, and I saw a lot of initiatives around the world. Unfortunately, a lot of them, most of them, failing because, and here comes, and I look at that because you need to have a vision for the future, and you have a tropism when you're an entrepreneur. You cannot not be looking into the future. And then I said, okay, let's try to understand why it's failing, and then how we can make sure that even if you need a lot of people with the same values and will to do it, how we make sure that we are successful, meaning successful in delivering at the end, out of this land and what we are thinking about. There's a lot of work to do. There are a lot of things that need to be built and in a solid way, invisible and visible. Invisible on building a community, visible on all the infrastructure and the resilience we're going to give to the place. Not in order that in a few years we send it up like other places that unfortunately I've seen in many places that are places with no soul or just adventures, financial adventures in that sense. So we go into a transition of our past life and this new life, and we decided to put our time, our resources, but our personas, our family involved personally in this project. So hopefully we start building a house sometime soon. We've been waiting for that time. In the meantime, we've been traveling in other countries, having the same feeling of that community need. We spent time in Morocco last year, we spent time in South Africa, we spent time in back to my origins in Italy, and there is the same need everywhere. There is the same lack of opportunities and infrastructure everywhere. Because if you live in France or Italy and you want to live in the countryside and have a community, it's hard to find people, infrastructure, a school, a hospital, a market, life. It's and then so but at the same time, and maybe I want to finish with this, is that we found ourselves that I, I like competition. I used to run sports. I play sports at the competition level. I like the engagement. You know, I like the collective win. Not the, I don't like playing tennis. I like playing rugby. Okay. And it's when you have a goal, and the goal would be that we build something that thrives and it's an example and then can grow. And that was my question to Marcelo. He said, do you want to build something that it's right here, or want to create like a movement and inspire other people into doing that? That's a challenge that I think will keep me up every day at night. And if it happens, it will help me to still live in the future and build my bridges back to the reality. And this is when you have young kids. So you live in the present when you have kids. And we said going to the Canel, so let's keep building bridges. It's important that we continue understanding where the world is going and what's happening and how we cope with that. Because we're not going to be completely isolated of that. In the world today, it's impossible. So how we understand that. So I'm still going to be building companies. I'm still going to be, because I think there is a lot to continue. I think we can build and create wealth of any kind with impact. And we can make a difference in people, one after the other one. So we decided to use our time, our resources to essentially support our personal initiatives or other people that we consider that have checked the boxes that we can really support them in and it's the case, was the case with Marcelo. Now it's formal, but whether it's in education, in healthcare, or in sustainability, in the environment. I thought the three focuses that we're going to have. What I bring into that is we also use technology that is a human creation, and we can use it for good. I did many initiatives about how using technology to be more inclusive with women. This is an environment that is very masculine. How we use it to have a positive impact in communities and not a negative one. We're facing a humongous challenge again in the cycles with the advent of AI technology. And so typically, I still decided that I was not, I'm the oldest of the band, but I still had some energy to say I want to be an actor in that, to try to move the needle on the good side, how we can apply it right. So if you can see what happens, it's not going to happen. I have to be in the middle of the arena. So I'm returning to that old world corporate with one foot only. I'm going to keep my other one. But again, there is that notion of a bridge. And essentially our main commitment here is making sure that we put our energy, our means, our shared vision, our values, to make sure that we build this resilient project. And you're not going to find yourself, and the days and nights spent with Marcelo and the rest of the people that are involved is just to make sure that we're going to deliver this. We're going to make it in a way that a lot of people that put a lot of trust and a lot of their human capital into coming here from around the world, find a safe place, but not only safe, it's a place that is going to be here. I'm saddened to visit other places where I wish they were thriving, and you end up there are people that are just facing issues with that, and it's not to name anywhere, but so that's a huge responsibility. That's how we feel it, and that's how we want to do it. So, and the last point I want to share was, I think that for this to be successful and inclusive in that way, we need to be very careful on how we put that openness, that tolerance into work, and leaving space for everyone, whatever the beliefs, whatever the origins, and just making sure that we hold and we are attentive to the people that are around us. We all take care of the same values, and our girls just love this place. It's very hard to get them out, bring them back to life in a city. So it's in the last note that make this link where our kids and experiences we went through, and that when you have this choice, and we have the privilege to have a choice that we built from scratch, is sometimes it's harder when you have the choice, because but I think once you made it, and we made our choice to be living with purpose instead of interest, the feeling is extremely unique and fulfilling, also a responsibility. So the message for you today is just you're gonna get to know the people that are really pushing behind this project and why we are doing this. We really have no other interest than creating this place, including for ourselves. So you're gonna see us here, not all the time, because we also are going back and forth and have to continue doing, but we are here and accessible, and we share that. And every time we can find a week or two, in spite of the jet lag, the trip, the logistics, we have 3 girls homeschool, and we make it. And every time I put my foot in this place, my karma changes, and it's so I can. I wish I could be here all the time, right? And it's gonna. Thank you very much.
My name's David or David. I am like many of the little kids here that was brought to Costa Rica when I was little. I was 7, and when I turned 18, I chose to become Costa Rican.
From where, David?
I was born in Peru,
Okay.
and my mom's British, so I have that mix of Latin America and Europe. So my life took me in the direction a little bit like Sebastián into the world of innovation, and I ended up being the person that directed innovation policy for Costa Rica. And many people in that role kind of like try and turn their country into Silicon Valley or into, like Israel or one of these, famous cases of innovation. But what I realized was Costa Rica has its own DNA that's different to the DNA of many of these places. And after being in that role for a while, I started to really deeply feel that the kind of innovation that Costa Rica has to offer the world is born in places like this. And that really convinced me of the importance of somehow playing a role in supporting the initiatives of people like Marcelo, who had a dream that came here that's involved so many beautiful people. And so the first thing I want to say from my heart is thank you. Thank you. There's something beautiful, like I think everybody was saying, of what happens when people from different cultures with different backgrounds really come together and just allow themselves to lean into a container that can spark something different. And I think that brings me to the space that we're having together this weekend. I feel like many of you are probably here, kind of asking yourself the question of, do I belong? How do I belong? When will I belong? And I guess my first message is just that as a consequence of being a beautiful and imperfect human being, you belong. A beautiful and imperfect human being that has an intention to bring something new and different into the world. And that's what I see is really happening here. And so I became involved in, basically because Marcelo and Juan are having this deep conviction and clarity that in addition to physical capital and financial capital, there's a need for that social capital, for that human capital. And that's actually something you can't buy. It's something that you can nurture. And so how can we do that? How can we prevent the kinds of things that have happened in other communities where there is this beautiful dream, but somehow there isn't this capacity to really honor bringing it to life in the way it naturally is. And so I saw this amazing opportunity to support, and yeah, so the analogy that immediately came to our mind was, when you think of physical infrastructure or visible infrastructure, just to simplify, I know that there's people who are architects and I'm being very basic in what I'm about to say, but like physical infrastructure is about bricks, and bricks don't have really any agency. And so they need human beings that can just move them, arrange them, and these bricks really, what gets them together is cement. And so as humans, we can come up with a beautiful master plan like the one that you've all seen and become engaged with here, that is linear and centralized and has a clear logic of how it gets executed to stick bricks with cement. And that's such an important part of what's happening here. And at the same time, there's this other social dynamic. And that social dynamic is not built with bricks. It's built with people. And people have agency. You can't just try and stick people together with cement. The cement of people are relationships. The social dynamic that kind of emerges when people have the space to really become their essence and to become, I think, what we're all here to become. So, speaking with Juan and Marcelo, we kind of asked, okay, well, how do you go about doing this? If this is the way this really works, what can we do? And together it was like, well, let's ask the people. If it's about relationships and people, let's ask the people. And so what emerged was this beautiful space of co-creation, where those that are involved in the company that have had this vision and that are playing so many important roles would have an opportunity to co-create with those that really feel in their heart that they want to be a part of Ecovilla San Mateo or the Ecovilla ecosystem in some shape or form. And over time, that ended up becoming what we've called the social lab, which many of you may have heard about. It's basically from a space of honesty, sincerity, and vulnerability, just being able to share that, look, nobody has all the answers for this. I think the people that surround me have a lot of insight and important things to contribute, and also the incredible humility to be able to recognize that it's the collective intelligence involving each of you that is actually going to manifest this. And so it's been really beautiful to see how many of the people that are here that are now, I consider close friends of mine, have really been playing an incredibly important role in just giving their time to explore together. How can we really build this dream? And so there's three real things that I just want to share that can give you an essence of the experience that we're hoping that you can each have in the next couple of days, and that have been very much alive in the work of the social lab. One is integration, the other is emergence, and the third one is abundance. And I'd like to just give a few examples of what I mean by each. So in this space right now, we have many different personalities, all different kinds of personalities. Some of you are very self-expressive and excited about purpose. Others really love connecting with each other. Some are more about order. Others really explore curious ideas. Others would like to make sure everybody understands each other. The full package of human psychology. And if you just invite the variety of people into one space and just have people collide with each other, usually without a little bit of design, that doesn't turn out so well. I think we've all had our own little experience of that in one shape or another. And so something that's been a very clear intention, and I'll use Juan's analogy for this, is how can this be a place where instead of feeling like we are being stopped by traffic lights and just waiting around and following kind of arbitrary rules, it can be a space of roundabouts where we move freely and can honor the different personalities that are here in a way that brings the best out of each. And if you want a better explanation of that, I would invite you to have a conversation with the gentleman who I think is the world expert on that analogy. And so So yeah, so one of the core intentions was, okay, what can we do to hold space to welcome those that just freely feel like they would like to be a part of manifesting this together. And over time, it became clear that it was going to be very important to embed in the way in which we interact and the way we live together the ability to be in tension with intention. You know, when I come across somebody that's different to me, it's inevitable. It's inevitable and maybe even desirable that we'll see things differently. And when we see things differently, there'll be tension within me. And many of these communities around the world that have kind of unraveled is because there hasn't really been the capacity to lean into that constructively, to lean into that in a generative way. So one of the things that has emerged, and I think some of you are participating in, is this space to start to build a culture that's able to really integrate our differences and to just sincerely see every moment of tension as an opportunity to see myself in the mirror and to grow from that and to grow together as a collective. And so one of the things I celebrate is the way in which that is so much a live part of the experience of what's happening already. The second one is emergence. So if a few people, let's say those of us that are up here, said, hey, we have this top-down idea of how this is going to work, and it's a plan like as if we were moving bricks, this would just really not work at all. And so one of the things that's been beautiful is the way in which in a weekly setting on Zoom, I think in the future it'll be in person, but for now it's been in Zoom. There's been this space to really just sense into what's happening in the Telegram group, what do people feel in their energy, what are people feeling inspired to bring to life, and just allowing and honoring and nourishing and supporting. And so there's been so many beautiful things that have come up around community building, men's groups, women's groups, sacred economics group, just to name a few. And then also some folks that really feel passionate about thinking about governance. You know, yeah, sure, there will be homeowners association and all the things that are required by law to keep order and make sure that property is managed and honored. But at the same time, so much of the governance of like a vibrant living community, it actually falls outside of that realm and is more about a decentralized, emergent way of just honoring people, honoring what people feel inspired to bring and just observing and allowing that to happen. So emergence is very much a part. And the last one, which somehow ties it all together, is abundance. And so all of the people that have thus far raised their hand to say, Marcelo, Canel, Sebastián, Juan, I'm all in with your vision, and I feel like I have gifts and talents that I can contribute within this community, have just decided to give their time, to connect with where do they feel inspired, where do they feel inspired to give, to contribute, and have just raised their hand to say, you know what, I can do this, I can support with this way, I have this expertise. And I think that from speaking to those that I've gotten to know well, a lot of that has come from where I started, which is just this amazing feeling of receiving, amazing feeling of receiving the gift of this vision of the opportunity to build on something that's already moving and that has a history and that is already so solid. And what I've seen is that when people act as they already are from this place of non-conditional giving, there's a cycle of abundance that kind of like an upward spiral of abundance. You know, we all have areas of abundance and areas of scarcity in our life. That'll always be that way. But do we choose to lead our lives focusing on the scarcity, or do we choose to lead our lives focusing on the abundance? And I think something that's been beautiful about the culture that's already emerged here is that people are choosing to do the second. So our hope for this weekend is that in the next panel and a few others, you will get an embodied sense of these things that I'm speaking about conceptually, and that somehow that fire that's already within you will be kindled to just kind of create this burning flame that is so important in spreading around the world. So I just wanted to close with a few inspiring words that came from you. A few months ago, we had a couple of sessions to lean into what the collective why of this community is. You know, why is it that we're here? Why is it that the people who connected with us, everybody in this room decided that this is something worthwhile. And I just wanted to close with this, so you can take this you can reflect on it and take it into the next panel. Our collective why. Why did we come here? Because we believe it's possible to live a more beautiful life through deeper connection with ourselves, each other, and nature. So we're all taking the leap. Our vision of community doesn't sacrifice individuality. It welcomes each person's needs and journey with compassion. And we aim to create a space where each of us can step into our fullness and gifts. We know that we are all one, and we are all nature, not separate from it. And so we do our best to respect and nurture all forms of life. And in doing that, we respect and nurture ourselves. We know that diversity is essential here to the web of life and to community. It strengthens us. We trust in this exciting experiment and are eager to learn in the process, even though we know it won't always be easy. We seek to continue evolving and expanding on a personal level, and we recognize that positive change in our world begins with transformation in ourselves. In fact, the inner and outer change are beautifully intertwined. We know this community only works if we hold each other in the highest regard. And we know those kinds of nourishing, caring relationships take deep work on our styles of communicating and on the invisible structures we carry with us. And we're up for it. We've all sensed an invitation to be part of this community, and we want to bring well-being to this place and its people. We know this work has begun, and we aim to be a next step or a new step on an ancient path. And with humility and playfulness, we just might have the potential to inspire others all over the world. Finally, we've come here because we believe in asking questions like, what if radical change also involves beauty, joy, and celebration? What if instead of fear, we choose to respond with love? Instead of waiting for perfection, what if this is good enough to get going?
Okay. Good morning again. Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Canel. Thank you, Sebastian, and thank you, David. So this is just the beginning. Okay? So thank you for being here. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Pedro. Okay, so now we have a break. Okay. And then we prep for the next panel that is going to be in the same place. Thank you, everyone.